Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. Tony, did you make any New Year's resolutions?
I'm Tony Kornheiser, just one. Spend more time at home. Yeah.
Wow. You'll be the only person in America that's going to be 100% on your resolution then. You're not breaking that
Yeah.
one.
No, I mean, I think I can handle that one. I'm pretty pleased about that. Don't make resolutions you can't keep. This is one I can keep. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. We will talk about Damar Hamlin with Booger McFarland in a few minutes. But first, NFL teams are preparing to play Sunday. And so we begin with Ron Rivera benching Carson Wentz and Taylor Heineke, and instead starting rookie quarterback Sam Howell in Sunday's final regular season game against the Cowboys. Wentz was dreadful against the Browns on Sunday. Heineke had recently struggled to put points on the board, so Howell, a fifth-round draft pick, gets the call. Wilbon, what does this move say to you?
That Ron Rivera and his staff screwed up last week. That's what it says. Because they should be playing for something. Instead, they're eliminating the Commanders. They're playing for nothing. They're playing to see which of their rookies, like this kid or young kid, can play. That's all they're doing now, exercise, so the coaches can have film on this player. That's all this is. Because Ron Rivera, Tony, Ron Rivera, you and I talked about this in live time. And I said to you, Ron Rivera, who played for my favorite ever team in any sport, the '85 Chicago Bears. I like him. I think he's a good coach. I'd hire him tomorrow to coach my team, whoever that was. But I'd also probably fire him off what he did Saturday. When he started Carson Wentz, Tony, there are multiple sources, and you know this. If you live in and around Washington, D.C., and you talk to people who know players, or we still talk to people who are close to locker rooms in that locker room, and they've told us since Labor Day, these guys don't particularly want to play with Carson Wentz. They want to play with Heineke. How does Rivera not know that? And how do you put Wentz in the game when you're the head coach? You have to know what everybody in that locker room feels, or a majority of people in that locker room feel.
Wentz, it seems to me, is done in Washington right now. This is his third team in 3 years. He may well be done in the NFL. He may be done in the NFL. I'll go back to the top, though, to say this. This is a franchise in complete upheaval at the moment. It is for sale. It has been investigated by the Congress of the United States of America.
Yeah.
There aren't 3 people in America who would raise their hands and say they like the owner at the moment. Let me just consult, because I take these notes. Their season is lost. They're out of the playoffs because of what happened in the last 2 games. So if you tell me we're going to take a flyer to look at this Howell kid, I'll go okay. But that's not the greater issue, Mike. The greater issue is what happened. I'm going to go through the bell. The greater issue is what happened in the last 2 games. The Giants came in to Washington, 1-4-1 in their last 6. Washington had 2 weeks to prepare for them. Playoffs on the line, they lost that game. Fortunately for them, everybody else lost, so they had another playoff opportunity this past week against Cleveland, a bad team with nothing to play for, mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, again at home for Washington, and again they lost that game. And so I think reluctantly you and I come to the same conclusion that you have to look at the head coach at some point. Right?
And Tony, again, he's had a long resume and a long tenure in the NFL. And I'm not about to say that, Ron Rivera can't do this or he's bad. No, I'm not going to say that.
Sure.
But when you are judged by the decisions you make, this decision gave away the possibility of a playoff spot. It gave it away. It was a bad decision. Yeah. I don't know that anybody out there in the building will admit that. It was an awful decision. And you don't need hindsight. You know, going into that game, you shouldn't have Carson Wentz out there. And he was out there and he failed spectacularly. And there's only one place to pin the blame. I ain't going to put it on Wentz because he shouldn't have been playing.
We move on. TCU was 5-7 last year, so they hired Sonny Dykes away from SMU. And Dykes went to work recruiting experienced players from the transfer portal. Dykes targeted specific positions. He brought in 13 players, including 5 starters and TCU's 2 leading tacklers. TCU is now in the championship game. Wilbon, there's been a lot of talk that the transfer portal would ruin college football. Doesn't TCU's immediate success prove the transfer portal is good for players and coaches alike?
No, it proves no such thing. It proves that it was good for TCU this year. It may not even be good for TCU a year from now. If they lose 4 or 5 players in the transfer portal because they went 7-4 and guys got unhappy, ask all the schools that are experiencing that if they think it's good, the coaches or the guys left in the locker rooms. It doesn't prove anything. It proves there's mobility for players, and in the larger context, I think that's good. I think just like coaches can be free agents, players ought to have some of that opportunity, even if it's not as free as it is now. But no, Tony, it doesn't prove anything that TCU benefited from it. TCU benefited. That means somebody else did not. So good for TCU. Right. Sonny Dykes and his crew took advantage of it. Good for them, but I'm not going any further than that.
So I believe philosophically and intellectually that the transfer portal is good. It recognizes that players have had no rights, that they've been exploited, and it lifts them up above indentured servitude. But I could never put my arms around it, Mike, and we've had this conversation because it just seems so impulsive. You get benched, you're in the transfer portal. The Clemson quarterback left and announced he was going to Oregon State the very week that Clemson was preparing to be in the Orange Bowl. So I agree with you that it worked out for TCU. The way you can, I just don't think anyone is exempt from this anymore. It used to be that you built a team around 2 or 3 good recruiting classes and you waited. Yeah. And like fine wine, it came to the top. TCU didn't wait at all for that. TCU took advantage of the rules and said, I'm going to get experienced players. They've served their apprenticeship somewhere else. They can come play for me right now. Mike, I think even Alabama will be affected because 5-star kids don't want to wait behind 5-star kids for an hour anymore. They just don't want to do it. And Mike, if I were a coach and I were recruiting, I don't know that I would recruit high school seniors anymore. I think I'd go to the transfer portal to see what, to me, it's like going to the supermarket. I need eggs, I need milk, I need butter. It's good. I'm taking it.
But I'll just say this. It depends on your school and your community and what you offer and what your school's admissions policies are and what it takes to stay eligible there. Those things aren't exactly the same for all the schools, even in the Power 5. But I agree with you. If you can take advantage of that, you do it. If you can't, you have to figure out a way around it, and it may still go back to the original source, which is recruiting.
You're getting
it worked for TCU.
Yeah, they got experienced players. They poached them from somewhere else. It worked great. Let's take a break. But coming up, in the aftermath of the cardiac arrest suffered by Damar Hamlin, how do players return to the field? We're going to ask Booger McFarland. Sonny Dykes did as great a job as you can do within the rules. Remember how Dean Smith used to understand the rules better than anybody? And so we want to talk about Damar Hamlin with a man who addressed what happened so compellingly on Monday night. A good friend from NFL Primetime, Monday Night Countdown, Booger McFarland. Booger, the Bills released a statement that Damar Hamlin showed, and I'm quoting here, signs of improvement, unquote, overnight, but he remains in critical condition. What are your thoughts on this particular update?
I think it's encouraging. I think, as a player, you see one of our brothers laying on the ground fighting for his life. And I think that's something nobody had ever seen, which is why I took over the country and everyone was watching with bated breath, just waiting on some details to come out, hoping and praying overnight that this young man would survive. And I think that's the most important thing. Any little crumb or any little sign of life that continues to move forward, any little sign of progress, that is something that we're all claiming as good news. And we just continue to pray and we hope and we continue to just wait on some good news each and every moment of the day.
Booger, in live time, I thought it was amazing and so difficult what you had to do to comment in live time during that broadcast. But I noticed that you said when you saw the looks on the players' faces, you knew it was different. Take us back for a moment just to how that impacted you, because I think watching it myself, I could see a little bit of how it impacted you, but I'd like to hear you expand on it.
Yeah, Mike. I've laid on that field before, and I've had a knee injury. I've had broken bones, and we're all accustomed to seeing that. We've seen head injuries and neck. Like we've seen so many different things. And as players, even though those are serious, we become callous to those. And I think when players see those, it's like, man, I feel for the guy, but let's move on and continue to play. When I saw those guys' faces and you see Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen and you see the tears start to roll, that's different. You know, when you see Josh Allen with his face covered, basically saying, oh my gosh, that's different because they're seeing CPR administered, which means their brother, Damar Hamlin, is laying on the field and he's having difficulty breathing or he can't breathe at all. And that's life and death. When we sign up for this game, we sign up for a lot, man. We take all the risks. We sign up for everything with it and that comes with it. But the one thing we don't sign up for is the ability not to get up off that, out of that locker room or off that field and go back and be with our family. Because that's the one thing we all do. Like we go compete and we have a great time and we deal with whatever, but we want to go home and be with our families. And in that moment, it was as if that was being taken away and no one knew how to act. And you saw the look and the anguish on those players' face. And I just felt for them because I played that same game. I've hit people harder. I've been hit harder. Why was I, quote unquote, lucky and not in that position? And why was he unlucky? Like all those thoughts run through your mind. And I just come back to the point that we tried to stay during the broadcast. Let's just pray for the young man because you can see in the moment, real time on national television, there's a life in the balance, and we all were watching, and we all were just, I think we all were taken to a place that we never thought we'd be taken to on the NFL field.
Well, Booger, following up on that, for those of us who never played anywhere close to the level you're talking about or suffering those sort of injuries, the physical impact injuries, how do you then get yourself in a space to play something as aggressive and as necessarily violent as the next game? Like, how do you, when you had those injuries and you're laying on the ground, but you come back and you played again, how do you do that?
Because of the risks that we take, Mike. And I think, you know, all those injuries I listed, which are the bones, the ligaments, all those different things, we become callous and we become accustomed to those. And I think the one difference will be as we look where we are today and we move forward to what's going to happen possibly on Sunday, is that if I'm a player and I'm playing for the Buffalo Bills and his life is still in the balance, I couldn't play. There's no way I could step on a football field and play a game and get in an emotional state and with my brother lying in a hospital battling for his life. And I think that's what the players are dealing with. That's what the NFL is trying to deal with right now as they're continuing to buy time. They're continuing to just to wait and pray and hope and just that we continue to see progress from him. I know that there are signs from the overnight studies from the doctors that he's starting to breathe more from a 50% oxygen level, which was at 100 on the ventilator. So things are getting better, but they're still not where they need to be, where we know he's safe. I would need to know that he is safe as far as his life is safe and not in the balance before I could play. Other than that, I just don't think I would feel right playing football while he's battling for his life.
Let me expand on that if I could and get your further thoughts down the road. You played, you have Super Bowl rings. There are larger issues that are raised here. There are larger issues about health and safety and the league's obligation to take care of players even when they can no longer play. You must have thought about that in the last 48 hours as well.
Yeah, because, you know, there's been an ongoing battle between players in the league as far as benefits. And, you know, the players have wanted insurance for life. And then with the concussion, the $1 billion concussion lawsuit that came, it's always a battle because we play a violent game. And it's come out here in the last day or so that the NFL, even though Damar was not vested, they're going to take care of all of the medical expenses, which is a great deal. And so this game takes so much from you, and it puts you in a position where you have to risk a lot. And I think we all take the risk knowing that the game has given us so much. I came from a small town in Winsboro, Louisiana. The only thing I wanted was to get out and take care of my mother. The game of football provided that for me. So even if you told me all the risk, even if you told me that there was a chance that what happened Monday night could happen to me, even if you told me there was a chance of the concussion coming up and me being able to have CTE, even if you told me I would break every bone in my body, I would still take the risk, Tony. I take it because of what the game has provided for me and my family. And it allowed me to take my mother from a spot where she was to put her in a position on a pedestal that I wanted to all my life. Now, that may seem crazy to some, but that's just the reality and the risk that we all take as players, because we get in the spot of what this game can provide for us. And on top of that, guys, it's the competition. Like, we like competing against one another. We've been playing this game since we were 5 years old for free. And now that we become 21, you tell me you're going to pay me to do the same thing I've been doing since I was 5? Yeah, we sign up for those risks and we take everything that comes with it. You just hope that over time that the NFL can figure out a way, because the long-term effects have been duly stated and well put out there with the CT and all these different things. You just hope at a certain point that the NFL can take care of all these players for life. No matter what happens, no matter what they deal with, we want to take care of all our players for life. You hope they get to a point where we can do that.
Thank you so much, Booger. It's so heartfelt. It
Thank you
comes
so
through the
much
screen.
for your
Thank you
candor.
so much.
Anytime, fellas.
We're going to take one last break, but we'll be right back with the happies and the big. Happy time, people. Happy 19th birthday, Victor Wembanyama. Wembanyama is supposed to be the next big thing. He's 7'2". He's playing in a pro league in France, where last year at 18, he averaged 23 points and 9 rebounds. He's widely expected to be the first pick in the 2023 NBA draft. When he gets here, Wembanyama will join already established stars from Europe, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic. At the moment, the 5 teams with the worst records and the best chance to get the number 1 pick are Detroit, Charlotte, Houston, San Antonio, and Orlando. And I don't know how this will happen, but I fully expect Wembanyama to end up either with LeBron or on the Knicks.
Well, the Knicks. I mean, the Knicks haven't won anything since Patrick Ewing in a lottery. Tony, he's the best prospect anybody has seen since LeBron, or if you want to go further back, since Magic. I mean, he's that good. I mean, I know you've been waiting. You've been saying, wait. I need more.
Yep.
Tony, you can find him. It's YouTube, you can find him somewhere. Watch him. There's nothing like this kid. Nothing.
Want to watch him against NBA players. Happy anniversary, Michael Vick. On this day 20 years ago, Vick and the Atlanta Falcons traveled to Green Bay and handed the Packers their first playoff loss ever at Lambeau. They were 11-0 there. The Falcons, who played in a dome in Atlanta, were up against one of the greatest cold weather quarterbacks ever in Brett Favre. Listen to this. When the temperature was below freezing at Lambeau, Favre had been 35-0. Bringing things up to date for the Packers in his career, Aaron Rodgers is 28-8 overall and 6-3 in postseason games played in below freezing weather. But that won't help this year, because even if the Packers make the playoffs, they're not going to play at Lambeau.
That's right. They won't get a home game. Tony, I think I covered that game. That might have been the only day in my life I ever got frostbite. I underestimated the cold in Green Bay. Figured, I've grown up in this. I can make it from the car to the press box. Oh, no, I couldn't. I think that was that day. Michael Vick had some real high highs in his career. He had some lows, too, and he had some controversy. But, man, when he was on, you know he could be brilliant.
Happy trails to a game winner for Lauri Markkanen. Markkanen made what looked like the game-winning 3 at the buzzer for the Jazz last night, but upon review, it was ruled time had run out before Markkanen got the shot off. So the Kings beat Utah 117-115. The Kings' Domantas Sabonis was initially confident that Markkanen did not have enough time to catch and shoot, but when he saw the shot drop, Sabonis conceded, and I quote, "We're the Kings," and I was like, well, we might have lost, unquote. 16 straight years of missing the playoffs. The longest drought in the 4 major North American sports can put you in that mindset. But this season, the Kings are leading the Pacific Division so far.
Tony, I mean, this is the best they've been since the Chris Webber, Peja Stojakovic, Mike Bibby. I think Matt Barnes is on that team. Bobby Jackson. I mean, those teams were fun to watch. That team got hosed. That team should have been in the finals. They got hosed in a game against the Lakers in the playoffs, and it's never been the same since. It's been a long time.
Omissions. Jimbo Fisher has hired Bobby Petrino as his offensive coordinator at Texas A&M. If you have no comment, we'll go to the big finish right away if we could.
Big finish. Here we go.
Giannis had a career-high 55 last night in the win over the Wizards. Are you impressed?
Luka, Jokic, and Giannis are going wilt, Tony. I mean, they're putting up numbers that nobody's ever put up. Might say something about defense being legislated out, but that's for another day. Ken Rosenthal told the Athletic Baseball Show he expects Carlos Correa's contract with the Mets to be dramatically different than the 12-year, $315 million originally reported. Your thoughts?
What are they getting on that medical exam? The Bears will sit Justin Fields on Sunday with a hip strain. Is that all right with you?
We've already lost 9 times in a row, which is the first time in a 100-year history of that franchise. So, yeah, it's fine. Who cares? USA and Canada in a World Junior Hockey Semi at 6 p.m. You intrigued?
I'd like to see Connor Bedard. Last one, the Nets go for their 13th win in a row tonight against your Bulls. You like their chances?
Bulls are like 7-1-1 against the Celtics and Bucks and Nets and Miami. So maybe they'll pop up and win this one. Maybe.
We are out of time. We will try and do better the next time. And I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the PTI podcast on the ESPN app or Apple Podcasts. And now, watch Countdown tonight. Here's SportsCenter.